Dr. Michael Savage, thank you for joining me today.
Love it. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So, you have a new book, Stop Mass Hysteria. The first sentence in your book is hatred is in the air. What do you mean by that?
I don't think anyone listening to the show has to ask that question. Let's begin with the hatred towards Mr. Kavanaugh, who is a factotum, or shall I say a panada for all white heterosexual Christian males. They've turned him into a gang rapist, murderer, alcoholic, you name it. If this is not an example of mass hysteria, I'd like to know what is. The man has gone through at least 3 FBI background checks to become a federal judge, and the vermin on the Democrat Party very well know that he went through background checks. So there's a little example of mass hysteria. There are many others.
So, right at the beginning of your book, you mention Antifa. Do you believe Antifa should be deemed a terrorist, domestic terrorist organization?
I think they have declared themselves to be a terrorist organization. Last week we saw on the Drudge Report a link where they claimed that they were going to pretend during the day that they were for all the people, but at night they were going to engage in activities of assassination towards their political enemies, meaning all those who are not communists and leftists of any kind. I'm talking assassination. This went out from Antifa people. They're absolutely domestic terrorist group. What else would anyone call them?
So, what should the Attorney General, what should the FBI, what should they do about that?
Well, if you're in a terrorist organization, we have a Department of Homeland Security, don't we? If you have a group within the United States that says they're going to assassinate political enemies, you round up the leadership and arrest them. What else do you do? Wait for them to kill people?
I think there are a handful of conservatives. I think you're one. I think Matt Drudge is one who can see around the corner and anticipate what is ahead for America. What do you think the left has in store for us?
More of what they have in store for us today. Smearing and destroying anyone who stands in their way, first verbally and then physically. They are in a revolution, Kyle. This is not a make-believe game to them. Their motto has long been that of the Communist Party USA. They're hardcore Maoists, and their motto is by all means necessary, whatever they have to do to crush the opposition. And by the way, if you look back at the history of the communist movement, going back to even before, well, let's look at the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. They killed thousands of people. There were mass executions of their political enemies. And the fact of the matter is, all totalitarian regimes follow the same game plan, mass executions of political enemies. It occurred under Stalin, the socialist, and it occurred under Hitler, the socialist fascist. They always assassinate their political enemies. So right now we have a domestic political terrorist organization called Antifa, known for their violence over the years, escalating, ratcheting up, and putting in writing, go out and kill at night. And tell your friends during the day, in other words, the useful idiots, the college kids, that during the day you smile and you make believe you're for all of mankind. At night you go out and you do your murders.
So, do you believe there's more chaos ahead?
I don't see how anyone could see anything else. They are absolutely on the warpath. There's very little opposition. If Feinstein, who is as dirty as they come, in my opinion, you know, she's been surrounded by scandal ever since she's been mayor of San Francisco, steering contracts to her husband, even alleged by the Los Angeles Times 10 years ago, before all the newspapers fell in the hands of the Democrat Party. The fact of the matter is her wealth has grown enormously, exponentially, as has Pelosi's while in office, yet you see no investigation of these people. So what's to stop them from smearing anyone that they want? Planting evidence as they're doing with Kavanaugh. Although that seems to be coming apart, Kyle. I mean, they overreach with this Sweatneck, whatever her name is, Sweatneck, who talked about gang rape, and those evildoers on the Democrat side actually talked about gang rape during the hearings last week, if you remember. She made the whole thing up. She admitted it. She said, well, I really didn't see it. I didn't even see Kavanaugh there. He was somewhere in the house. That was yesterday, right? So
Right.
Has anyone retracted it? Has Feinstein said, I'm sorry for destroying a man's name and reputation?
No, and in fact, NBC said they couldn't even verify her claims, and yet they put them on the air. I think that's That's the state of journalism today.
Journalism. Are you joking? Here I am, a best-selling author, 6 in a row, New York Times bestseller list. They pretend I don't exist, which is another tactic of the Stalinist movement in the United States of America. They never mention my name. It's clearly like it was in the Soviet Union. First, you don't mention the name of the opponent. Therefore, you make them non-existent. And then if they really get in your way, you smear them. That's how they do it. That is what is being done. So more of us are going to be ruined over the next few months unless we understand who our enemy is and fight back.
So how do you fight back?
Well, my book is called Stop Mass Hysteria. I'm doing it through the written word and through the spoken word by exposing the mass hysterias that America has been engulfed in, going back to the Salem witch trials, for example, which was a classic case of mass hysteria. I don't know how to stop it other than by exposing the opponents for who they are, what they are, and their own vulnerabilities.
So where is the best place to go to find more information about your book?
Well, come Tuesday, the 9th, it will be in every Barnes & Noble in America, Books A Million, Sam's Club, you name it. Every major bookstore has it. And on an upfront, the publisher did pay for upfront placement. The problem, Kyle, is there are not enough Kyles and American Mirrors out there. There are not enough Drudge Reports out there. And I am absolutely banished and banned from all conservative media, the same way I'm banned from left-wing media, because they're all part and parcel of the same cabal, the same complex, the same government media complex. But the book is in the stores. People can go and check it out for themselves. I just want to conclude, since we're talking about my book, which, of course, you've seen a picture of. You know, I've written many books, and Trump's War was a #1 New York Times bestseller, #1 with no appearances on any television, none. Then God, Faith, and Reason, a book that never should have sold at all, was on the New York Times list because my listeners are extremely loyal to my words. And so, therefore, there is hope that people will seek out and find the truth. This is the first book I have written that goes beyond being a political book. It's a political/history book. I take people from today back to yesterday, all the way back to Roman times and even beyond that, to try to make connections as to where things fit in the sweep of history and where they might go tomorrow. And Stop Mass Hysteria is my best book to date in the sense that it's the most carefully researched and goes way beyond politics into history.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to thank you for appearing in Democrats, which will be coming out soon. And thank you for the work that you do, the voice that you have, and the difference that you're making.
Well, thank you for having me on the America Mirror, one of the last holdouts for the flame of liberty that I see on the internet. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it very much. And to the staff at America Mirror, keep the faith, baby, as we used to say in the 60s.
Thank you very much.